What's up, Cement fam? What's up, Kingdom Built fam? I'm AJ Sims coming at you with another edition of the Kingdom Built podcast. In today's episode, I am going to touch on as fast as I can, but as detailed and methodical as I possibly can to give you guys and ensure you guys that you leave this podcast with enough information on all things that are key essentials to optimizing lifestyle. What do I mean by that? Well, fat loss, muscle gain, cardio, training, supplementation, gut health, sleep optimization, and everything in between that you can do to optimize your physique, your goals, starting from the inside out. I always say you can only have an external that looks great for a short period of time if your internal is starting to fail. It starts from the inside out. When you're firing on all cylinders internally, you will look your best externally with all variables considered. So stay tuned. I'm going to get to all these details by the end of this podcast. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so like I said, today I wanted to touch on lifestyle. How do we optimize lifestyle in each facet? Nutrition, training, cardio, sleep hygiene, gut health, supplementation, and everything in between so that we can show up at our best each and every day. So there's core key essentials that I like to do going into the basics. So even though some of this is going to be some sort of a deep dive, so to speak, it's still going to be basic, but methodically laid out so that you leave this podcast with tons of information to optimize your lifestyle. All right, guys, everything I say, please keep in mind your mileage may vary. So these are general guideline overviews. Your mileage may vary, not to be repetitive, but that is a key core essential to understand that your body is your body, and specifically the things that you need to do and attack will be based off what you need in customization. Of course, that's what I do with lifestyle clients all over the world, getting these men fully churning each and every day, going above and beyond the goals that they thought they could ever experience when it comes to their physique goals and their internal health goals. All right, guys, so nutritionally, we're going to attack the foundation of core key essentials of nutrition. If you guys follow me, you know I'm a huge proponent of carb cycling, calorie cycling. I cycle macronutrients year round. Personally, for myself, it's what I do, and it's what I do for the majority of my clients and athletes all around as a whole, whether you're a professional wrestler getting ready for WrestleMania, or you're getting ready for the Mr. Olympia contest, or you just want to get ready. In 8 weeks, you're going to the Bahamas and you want to look ripped and jacked and just all those things in between. It's all going to be the same, and it's all going to be the same in terms of calorie and carb cycling. Why do I do that? I love to set up the ability to have a zigzag diet, as Jay Cutler would call it, the zigzag diet. I learned that back in 2001 from him. Great terminology too. I don't think anyone uses that today, so maybe we'll trademark that, Jay, the zigzag diet. However, I digress. We want to get into a caloric cycle. Now, why do I want to do that? Because as I'm dieting an individual down, or myself, we want to avoid metabolic adaptation. So the best way that I know how to do that, one of the best ways, is to implement carb cycling. Yes, we can implement diet breaks. Yes, we implement refeeds. We also implement supersaturation days, which we'll get into that. But carb cycling is a key core essential into my programs for clients all over the world. Now, what I like to do is when I set up someone with 3 menus, high, medium, and low, or refeed, baseline, off day, or lower calorie, low carb menu, essentially what I'm trying to do is set them up for a supercompensation effect. Now, that supercompensation effect only really occurs at lower body fat levels. But again, as we are on the trajectory towards those said lower body fat levels, we want to avoid and mitigate as much metabolic adaptation as we possibly can. So by ensuring that we're carb cycling correctly and that we are also managing our SFR, stimulus to fatigue ratio, and diet fatigue, all things according, the variables are being controlled, your sleep, your recovery, and the way that you train and attack your cardio, as well as NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which plays into your total daily energy expenditure. I'm saying a lot to say this. When you set up a structured diet, by utilizing things like a carb cycling, calorie cycling, You have many things from a physiological standpoint to your advantage, but from a psychological standpoint, there's a lot of advantages to it. Why? Simply because if you are digging, so to speak, the term that we use, digging, pushing, whatever you want to call it, for 2 to 3 to 4 days on a lower carbohydrate diet, psychologically, if you know there's some form of a refeed or a higher carb day to come, that allows you from a neurological standpoint to be able to push and have adherence to that said program just a little bit longer, because you know, turning that corner, here comes some food where we're not only going to get a refill and replenishment of glycogen, depending on if it's a 24, 48, or 72 hour refeed, we're also possibly going to get a ghrelin spike, leptin control, and more T4 to T3 conversion. Now, typically with a refeed, that doesn't happen until you're at an extended refeed. 48 to 72 hours typically. Literature will show us that in 24 hours, you typically don't see that hormonal shift. However, you will see muscle fullness, muscle glycogen retain. You will also notice dopaminergic system is higher, so you'll feel more motivated. You're gonna have a little bit more get up and go because that dopamine's higher. You're getting a lot more satisfied. You have a mood elevation spike. Therefore, you know that you can adhere to the diet push or dig over the course of the next few days that are coming. Now, if we're aiming for that hormonal shift, which we always want to watch for reverse T3 going up, T4 to T3 conversion going down, which of course correlates into the reverse T3 going up, those are all cascading effects of metabolic adaptation and things that need to transition, which is why carb cycling is such a phenomenal tool when you really know how to implement it into your program. So with the dietary adherence, knowing that from a psychological standpoint and physiological standpoint, you'll see the advantages to doing it. I do it year around. If you guys follow me, I stay lean year round, and I've been able to increase my basal metabolic rate. I've been able to keep metabolic adaptation down, control reverse T3, have a great T4 to T3 conversion, keep TSH where it needs to without thyroid medication, only touching on micronutrients, which of course we can get into because that's very important, not just to focus and fixate on macronutrients, protein, fats, and carbs, but to also fixate your mind on micronutrients. So important, because if you are deficient in micronutrients, you will not reap the benefits of being in a deficit in any shape, form, or fashion, and everything will just feel much more sluggish. So carb cycling is a phenomenal tool to avoid metabolic adaptation, to get your fat loss goals met to the highest standard, in my opinion, and to avoid diet fatigue. And from a psychological standpoint, which of course goes into diet fatigue, right? We've all been there where we've dieted our butts off for many weeks and months without a said refeed or cheat meal. I know for me personally, in 2008, when I was prepping for teen nationals at 19, I did a prep for 37 weeks with not one cheat meal. Not one cheat meal. And it didn't aid or benefit me whatsoever. Had I known then what I know now, my success rate back then would have been much higher. But again, I digress. We're going to touch on micronutrients and how essential they are to really reap the best results that you're trying to achieve. Without those micronutrients, we're just going to hit a wall. So let's get into the micronutrients right now. All right, so micronutrients, what are we touching on? We're touching on magnesium, we're touching on zinc, we're touching on copper, iodine, selenium, just to name a few. Magnesium plays a role in 300 biomechanical reactions in the body: energy production, protein synthesis, and insulin sensitivity, just to name a few. Not only those things, but we know that majority of people are magnesium deficient. So I always tell people, go get a micronutrient test. It's important that you understand magnesium is typically deficient in most people. Or you can go above and beyond that and get a serum and urinary electrolyte test. Those will really show you where you are deficient in with electrolytes within the system. Very important. From there, we have zinc, which is vital for immune testosterone production and aids in protein synthesis and cellular repair. So zinc, very important, playing a crucial role in thyroid functionality, as well as the T4 to T3 conversion, which we get into selenium, which will also aid in the same thing. It acts as an antioxidant and protects against oxidative stress and will help with the T4 to T3 conversion, another precursor to thyroid support. And that gets into the next one, cascading into iodine, essential for the production of thyroid hormones as a whole. If you're iodine deficient, you will feel sluggish, low energy, brain fog. You may even have some weight gain, so on and so forth, because it is a key role factor in proper thyroid health. Copper being a key pivotal role to combine with zinc. Very important that those two go together, which is why you'll see brands out there that formulate supplements make a copper and zinc, like Bulletproof. They put copper and zinc together. They know that these are vital on the cellular level for energy production as well. So these are some key vital micronutrients that a lot of people will miss. There's many, many more, but just kind of touching on some of the core essentials right here. And of course, going into electrolyte balance, sodium being so important for everything overall. Now, people say, well, I have blood pressure issues, so I can't take in a lot of sodium. A lot of times that has to do with insulin resistance. Not always, but a lot of times there is an insulin resistant issue going on, but you want to check your HbA1c, which is over the course of 3 months of your glucose reading. Remember, glucose is just a snapshot in time on blood work, or if you're taking your acute blood glucose with a glucose monitor, waking or postprandial, it gives you an overview, but it's just a snapshot where you want that 3-month correlation with HbA1c. All right, so sodium also playing a pivotal role in mitochondrial functionality and optimization. Very, very important for cellular hydration. You guys have heard me say that all the time. And if you're my client, you're laughing because you know that's on your program. Cellular hydration. Key role in what sodium does, which is also leading into thyroid production. So sodium is a key player in having a proper thyroid functionality and optimizing thyroid functionality on all facets. So you cannot miss having the right amount of sodium in your body at all times. Now that will vary. Again, your mileage may vary because if you're sweating and excreting more due to the climate of your area, your needs will be higher with sodium. Also, with proper sodium intake, you can have a reduction in cortisol. Now, one thing that I have people do and myself is if I feel a little more wound up and I'm more into a sympathetic autonomic nervous system state, so fight or flight, I want to shift into parasympathetic. So I will get into some box breathing, and I will also take a 1/4 teaspoon of Redmond's real salt or Celtic sea salt before bed, which will reduce overall cortisol. It'll allow me to relax, and I always sleep that much better at night. So very, very important. Don't miss out on potassium too, because potassium is a key player too. These two will correlate together in the sodium-potassium pump, which is very, very important to have proper electrons going through your body. And it does so much, which I touched on in my last episode of mitochondrial optimization. If you haven't seen that one, go back after this video and check out how to optimize mitochondrial functionality. So that is your micronutrients right there. Real quick, brief synopsis on some of the key pivotal roles that you need to make sure that you're taking in with the micronutrients. Now, we can't forget about fiber. Fiber intake is very, very important, and where you're getting the fiber from. Fiber is essential for so many things, one being insulin sensitivity. Now, we all know that it's going to help with having regularity and bowel movements and all those great things. It will also help with cholesterol and lipid regulation, will also help with insulin sensitivity. So fiber is very important, but the type of fiber you get is super, super important. In my Gut Revival by Cement Sups at cementfactory.com, Sunfiber is a trademark patent version of fiber, and that's why I put it in my Cement Gut Revival, which you can find at cementfactory.com. But at the time of this taping, we're actually sold out right now. What a blessing that is. You guys love Gut Revival. Stay tuned because we're going to be restocking that really soon. And if you get on the website right now, cementfactory.com, for you viewers right now listening, 10% off your first order with promo code CEMENT10. Cheap plug, but I had to do it. Sunfiber is one of the purest forms of fiber that you can take on the supplement market. The reason I love it is because you can literally put it in some water, you stir one time, it is dissolved. It's going to do the same thing in your GI. You won't get any gastric distress. You're not going to get any bloating that you would get from other fiber products. So Sunfiber, great form of fiber. You can get fiber, of course, from different organic fruits, low sugar berries, different vegetables that maybe are on the low FODMAP vegetable list as well. So we're not causing any stomach distress, and also low gas vegetables as well. So not a huge fan of broccoli, But I do love broccoli sprouts for sulforaphane, which is amazing, amazing modality for oxidative stress, to fight cancer cells, and to help with any GI issues as well, like Helicobacter pylori, Candida overgrowth, SIBO, broccoli sprouts containing sulforaphane. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. Can also help with mitochondrial functionality and optimization as well. So that's fiber. So now we've touched on carb cycling, micronutrients. Now we're going to get into everybody's favorite topic, refeeds. Do we refeed or do we do a cheat meal? So what do we do when we are in a diet phase as a lifestyle client or a lifestyle person and we want to live life? Do we go for a refeed or a cheat meal? Well, listen, your mileage may vary, and I'm going to explain why right now. So you could go for a set, cleaner refeed utilizing foods that are already in your diet and maybe adding in a few fun foods that maybe you don't eat on a regular basis, but they are low anti-inflammatory food sources. Obviously, when we refeed, our focus is on carbohydrates. These are key core essentials for leptin, T4 to T3 conversion, reverse T3 staying down, replenishing muscle glycogen, and we love carbs, man. Come on, let's just be honest. We love carbs. So we want to hit our refeeds with our focus on carbohydrates, protein being more at maintenance or even below maintenance, and dietary fats being at a very low, if not trace amount during that day or during that said refeed. And we are going to see all the benefits come throughout that day. Now, I love people to be very hungry on this day. I don't want them to feel super, super satiated. I actually want the food and the gastric emptying to be at an all-time high for optimal results. This is usually, not always, but usually correlated with someone's body partitioning these nutrients the way that they need to, because there's usually a correlation in blood glucose being regulated and dropping lower to hunger signals and ghrelin signals. Again, not always, but the majority of the time, what I've seen, and anecdotally, those two go hand in hand. They correlate together. That means we're fully churning and the body's doing exactly what it needs to do to partition these nutrients correctly on said refeed. Or we do cheat meals. Now, cheat meals at the age of 36 is a lot different than when I was 20. When I wanted a cheat meal at 20, I was going to go eat whatever I wanted. I lived in Vegas around that age, so we were going to In-N-Out. We were getting 4 double-doubles, animal style, with fries, animal style. We were getting Golden Spoon, which was low-fat frozen yogurt, but throwing on Butterfinger and Oreos, and maybe if there was a Wendy's across the street, we're going to get a Junior Bacon Cheeseburger or a Chipotle or pizza. We were going to an all-you-can-eat sushi place, Sushimon, Yama Sushi. My Vegas residents may know what I'm talking about. $24.95, all-you-can-eat sushi, high quality. And we would stay there for 2 hours and eat till we almost exploded. That's how we rolled back then when we were trying to grow or post-show. Now, at 36, my focus and what I want to present to the audience, you guys at home, is that you need to focus on foods that make you feel good and don't cause a net negative impact the following day. What do I mean by that? Eating foods that are highly processed with lots of sugar and foods containing high amounts of omega-6 laden seed oils that are going to cause a systemic inflammatory response throughout the body. The following day, you may feel brain fog, you may have joints that are achy, you just may feel sluggish overall because you have this inflammatory response in the GI going throughout the entire body because there's a gut-brain axis, vagal nerve tone, all these things are correlating, cascading together, causing this issue where you just feel like trash the next day. And not to mention, more than likely, your sleep was negated because it was downregulated due to an elevated heart rate. So you'll see that your HRV was discombobulated, for lack of better terms, or downregulated. It wasn't where it needed to be or its normal average due to the amount of food you had that were highly processed with high sugars at night or in the evening, and it trickled into that night. So you're having a lot of these issues that are being impactful into your next 24 to 48 hours. I just don't see the need for that. So when I go for a cheat meal, I'm all about sushi still, but I will stay away from cream cheese. I will stay away from fried sushi rolls, and I will stick with fish that I know digest really well. I also stay away from the eel sauce, the spicy mayo, high sugar, high gluten containing sauces when I eat sushi. I love the taste of sushi. Now, if sushi is not your jam, that's fine. You got everything like grass-fed bison burgers, grass-fed burgers, using sourdough bread, sourdough buns. You can even cook up a lower fat sourdough pizza base at home, topping it with chicken breast, turkey pepperoni, lean ground beef, low fat, low sodium pasta sauce. You can make your own spaghetti and meatballs at home with sourdough Texas toast, or you can go for breakfast foods. So basically, and that's a short synopsis, there's so many more foods that you can eat that are going to digest really well. Another one I love, I can't go without saying this. I would definitely be remiss if I didn't mention Turkish food, Mediterranean style kebabs with rice and hummus and olive oil. That stuff is phenomenal. It digests beautifully, it tastes amazing. And again, you're gonna get the benefits of that higher caloric intake that day into the next day, possibly aiding you in bringing you out of diet fatigue, but also bringing you out of that SFR, stimulus to fatigue ratio. So you're not feeling as run down because now we're well fed and we're going to be able to push over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 days, or possibly a week, depending on what your goals are, where you're at in your body's response. Algorithm, biofeedback, your mileage may vary, but you need to approach cheat meals in the mindset of, is this going to benefit me into the next coming days? Listen, gentlemen, we're busy. If you're a father, a husband, or you're becoming a husband or going to become a father, but you're also moving quick in this world. We're all trying to grind and churn, and we stay busy. Whatever the case is, you need to be functioning at the highest level possible. And that is with the food that you put into your body. That also comes with the amount of sleep you get, but the quality of sleep. I posted something yesterday on Instagram and I talked about how sleep can be dysregulated if you're going to sleep in a sympathetic autonomic nervous state, fight or flight. You will not be fully recovered. HRV is going to be thrown off, like I said, with highly processed, high sugar containing foods. You will never feel fully rested. You'll never get out of that fatigue. You're not getting all the benefits of the sleep that you need. So it's so important that we're getting into that rapid eye movement sleep. That REM sleep is so important for proper recovery, but also from a neurological standpoint. So, critical thinking, emotions, mood regulations, all gonna come through that REM sleep. But we also need to get into that slow wave sleep, the SWS. You may not have heard of that. It's really not talked about much. In SWS, the slow wave sleep is vital. It's vital to repair tissue and replenish glycogen, as well as clear out any metabolic waste that's happening. This is the only way that you can truly recover. And during this time, you're getting the most growth hormone release, and it's essential for, like I said, recovery. So you will always be in a fatigue hole if you're not getting SWS, slow wave sleep, and REM sleep. So very important, that ties into the foods that you eat and the timing of those nutrients. So key for the autonomic nervous system: fight or flight, sympathetic, rest and digest, parasympathetic. You want to stay in a parasympathetic state. And the majority of us are always in fight or flight because we're constantly working, we're constantly on social media, we're constantly scrolling, we're constantly taking text messages, phone calls from the moment we wake up. You do this. You look at your phone, you check for who's liked your pictures, who's validated you, who's in your DM box, all this nonsense that's keeping you in more of a sympathetic nervous state, fight or flight. So very important, nutrition will correlate into quality sleep. So that's how you need to really approach cheat meals. Is this going to benefit me over the course of the next 24, 48, 72 hours? Or is it going to cause a net negative effect and I'm just getting that psychological benefit for 15, 20 minutes, which of course is going to give you a natural dopamine release. It's going to feel great. The long-term effects are actually going to cause a net negative. So you have to approach these methodically to mitigate metabolic adaptation as much as you possibly can. So they're crucial. You can use both. You can use them together. Super saturation days is what I call. It's integrating both of these strategies together to get the most out of mitigating metabolic adaptation, keeping that basal metabolic rate up and making sure that T4 to T3 conversion is still happening, controlling leptin levels, ghrelin levels. We're controlling all these fat burning hormones and we're attacking it properly through nutritional strategies. So that is an overview nutritionally of how we can approach this and optimize ourselves in lifestyle. Now, I want to touch on real quick, because I don't want to make this a 2-hour episode. I'm going to break this down episode by episode. Next, we're going to get into training, cardio approaches, how we have those modalities work to the most of our benefit so we avoid too much stimulus to fatigue ratio. And listen, SFR is a hot topic word. I get it. There's going to be days you feel fatigued. There's going to be days that you don't really feel like getting into the gym. You may go to the gym, and we've all experienced this, where we get in there, we don't feel like being there, we feel tired, and we have the best training session of our life. So sometimes it's more psychological, but there is a point of no return where you hit that brick wall and stimulus to fatigue ratio is too high, and you just cannot get recovery and rested, and you start going backwards in all of your progression. You can't figure out why. Cortisol is all over the place, sleep disturbances, your appetite is shot. All these things are happening, down to gastric distress and inflammation that you can't get rid of. And that's controlling the SFR, stimulus to fatigue ratio, also correlating it to diet fatigue. We're going to go over that. I'm also going to go over how do we optimize our brain functionality, brain-derived nootropic factor, cholinergic system, dopaminergic system, serotonin, all these things cascading so that we're happy. We got mood elevation. We got word recall. We got memory. We're not sitting here saying, what was that word? I can't think. I'll have to get back to you. We don't want that. Come on. We want to be sharp as a tack as much as we can. Listen, there's nothing wrong with having days where we're kind of in the middle. But for the most part, if we want to excel and achieve the most success in every avenue, but also show up as a leader in our homes or show up as a leader with our clients, if you're a coach, whatever you're doing, we want to be optimal. That's what this podcast is all about. So we're approaching this lifestyle and all these different facets. So I'm going to go over as we go along in this episode series of lifestyle optimization, how I approach it with my clients. We always start from the inside out. So getting blood work is vital. Detailed blood work that is not just $90, but detailed blood work that you don't have a problem spending $300, $400, $500, because we need to look under the hood and see what's going on. It's very important, down to a Genova Diagnostics GI test. We need to see what's going on within the gut, the microbiome. How do we correct it? How do we fix it? Death starts in the colon. If your gut is not healthy, forget about it. Everything else is going to be dysregulated. There's a gut-brain axis, like I said, vagal nerve. All these things correlate together, which can correlate into thyroid functionality, which correlate into metabolism, which can correlate also into systemic inflammation. So then we're hurting all over. We can't sleep. We can't burn fat. Cortisol is dysregulated. All these things down to circadian rhythm. We can't do anything. So we have to make sure that our gut health is optimized. Key role in all of this. So we start from the inside out, and then we fix what we need to, gentlemen. Once we fix what we need to, then we can start attacking and approaching everything that we need to get these goals that we're trying to shoot for from an aesthetic standpoint, but also, again, feeling great. There's a saying that no food tastes as good as feeling amazing, or nothing tastes as good as feeling amazing and being healthy. That's got to start from the inside out. Believe me when I tell you, I went many years when I was competing not being very healthy internally. I looked great externally, but you could start to see the shift in my body where I was chronically inflamed. I just felt horrible. And that inflammation went into my brain. So it was trickling into neuroinflammation, which caused a brain fog that was just crazy to have as a 20-year-old. So we want to make sure that we are attacking every facet. So you're optimizing your lifestyle, because this is for longevity. This is not just prepping for a 16 or 20-week show. And you bodybuilders and competitors alike that are hearing this, there's life after hanging those trunks up. And I've seen it more times than not. Some of our favorite bodybuilders from the 90s are just a picture of poor health because they didn't live the lifestyle of health. It was simply a focus fixed on being a champion bodybuilder. After that, everything just goes. You don't want to be there. You want to feel good at 65 years old and be able to perform each and every day. Have mobility, longevity, have libido, have energy that just goes throughout the entire day. Like the Energizer Bunny. You're optimal. And I want to encourage you guys to start focusing on being optimal on every level. So we need to touch on blood work and getting detailed blood work taken care of. That's going to come in the form of course, CBC and lipids, but also going to go and correlate into things like total and free test, estrogen management, hemoglobin A1C, cortisol, DHEA, pregnenolone, because we want to make sure those neurosteroids are properly balanced within the brain. It's going to really help when you're doing things like TRT, or if you guys are taking super supplementation, in additions to that, that we're regulating those things that are being down-regulated by that. It's going to help with mood and memory. Very, very important and vital, as well as a B vitamin profile. Vitamin D, very important as well. We can get into APOB and the factors and how important that is with lipids and cholesterol and heart and cardiovascular health alike. Statin EGFR is one of the gold standards for your kidney functionality. Very important there as well. And there's so many other levels of blood work that we can get all the way into Dutch test. Dutch test is phenomenal. Dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. Very, very important. The Dutch test will show you things from DHEA to cortisol to cortisone to daily cortisol rhythms. Very important that you understand the natural rhythm of your cortisol. Very, very important. To your methylation pathways too, and all your neurotransmitters, the dopamine, the norepinephrine, the epinephrine, all those things that are going on neurologically. Dutch test is phenomenal. So don't negate the Dutch test as well. So extensive labs, Dutch test, Genova Diagnostics GI test. And you guys are thinking, oh my gosh, AJ, this is expensive stuff. You can't invest in anything more important than health. So you have to stop thinking in those terms. You can't put a price on your health because you're either going to pay for it now or you're going to pay for it when you're laying in a hospital bed. The choice is yours, gentlemen. So with that being said, that's going to cover episode 1, lifestyle optimization. We're going to keep this series rolling. I'm going to continue to dive deep on certain things that maybe you've never heard before. Maybe you have heard them, but I'm going to try to help give you a better understanding on the why and the reason behind it all. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, please hit that like, subscribe, bell notification for the next time I drop another video, because you're not going to want to miss this stuff. I'm AJ Sims. Thank you so much for joining. That is a lifestyle full churn. I'll see you guys on the next video. God bless.